60 Minutes Rewind.
He's a singer, actor, producer, and ambassador for human rights, and a legend. Harry Belafonte opened doors in the entertainment world that African Americans have been walking through ever since. He was the first black man ever to receive a Tony and an Emmy, and the first artist of any race to take an album gold to sell 1 million records. Today, at 70, he's been called a national treasure and has been awarded the highest civilian honors his country has to give. But back in the early 50s, when Belafonte was getting started, no black singer had ever broken through to such large white audiences like Belafonte did. Back in the 1950s, when this was a segregated country and there was a clear dividing line between black and white entertainment, Belafonte captured a large white audience, some say because of his stunning looks, velvety voice, and those swaying hips. But Belafonte says it was more than that on stage he was a black man with whom whites felt comfortable.
I knew that there was an exchange taking place between me and my audience that was a forbidden exchange under other conditions. And for some reason or the other, they didn't feel threatened.
Threatened? They bought his albums in record numbers and packed concert halls to see him. Belafonte's popularity opened doors that had previously been shut to blacks.
I was opening up hotels, changing rules across the length and breadth of this country in ways that were never made part of the front page news of the day, but the Waldorf Astoria, which was tenacious in its racial discrimination.
You could sing there, but you couldn't stay there.
I couldn't even sing there. And when they accidentally booked me, the place did so well that they finally officially let blacks have access to the hotel.
But as popular as he was in 1955, when he toured the South, it was the same old story.
I remember getting off the bus to go to the bathroom on a bus stop. And as I walked into the men's room, I heard a voice behind me that says, "You let go or drop, you're dead." And I turned around and took a look, and there was a state trooper, you know. And I looked at him, and the humiliation of it, I never had a feeling like that before in my life. I guess my urine had better sense than I did, because it just backed up, you know. And I didn't let go or drop. And I walked back on that bus, and I just sat there for the rest of that tour, devastated by the experience.
How did you deal with all of that? I mean, on one level, you were so accepted, had so much success, but on another level, in some places you couldn't go to the bathroom.
I went into psychoanalysis. There were a lot of things going on with me in that period that just turned me upside down. To understand some of what was turning Belafonte upside down, he told us you have to go back to his childhood. He was born in Harlem, but was shuttled between his parents in New York and his mother's family in Jamaica. For a very, very long time, I neither felt Jamaican or American. And there was always that sense of not knowing quite where I belonged.
Was color a factor in your family?
Yes. Race in the family existed on all colorations and gradations. My mother, because of the nature of her complexion, could convince white Jewish landlords in New York that she was white.
At one point, you moved into an Irish-Italian neighborhood, I guess when you were about 12 or 13.
Yeah. And everybody circled me rather curiously over the first few months, watching who I was. And then when they said, "Well, tell us, who are you? And are you white?" Yes. "Well, why does your hair look like that if you're not black, if you're not a Negro?" "Oh, well, you know, the last place we were living in, not last place, but about 5 years ago, the last place we lived in, like, it was a bad fire. And I got caught in it, my hair was singed, and that's why it looks this way." And somehow, that made it okay. Belafonte didn't have to pass in Jamaica. The person he was closest to was his grandmother, and she was white. She cared for me, she cuddled me, she spoiled me. She gave me the single greatest continuous period of care that anyone else had given me. Today, Belafonte is a grandparent, and he's made peace with those early years. But after a brush with cancer, he decided to return to Jamaica to celebrate his 70th birthday to connect his past with his present.
Now, hug him for
He brought his family to share it with him, his son David, his daughter Sherry, his youngest daughter Gina, his oldest daughter Adrian, and their mates and children. He also brought his second wife, Julie Belafonte. They've been married for 40 years. In 1957, their interracial marriage caused a scandal. How did you react to that? Harry Belafonte marries white dancer.
Well, I'm tough. One would expect that at that time in history. And he did marry a white dancer.
Race had nothing to do with what happened with me and Julie. I picked Julie because she did something to me that no other woman did. And I fell madly in love, simple, over and out.
Belafonte took us all up to the mountains, to the village of Abuka, to show us his roots.
This was the first place we lived, was in this. And most of the family had this and some little shacks behind here, which made up the family complex.
The family complex?
Yeah. It was.
He told the family stories of their history.
A lot of the British married into the African and became families. And the Clarks and the Loves lived in this region.
And today, Belafonte's oldest living relative, his aunt, still lives there.
How old are you now, Miss Lou?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 97.
97. You don't look a day over 34.
I was born 1900, the 4th of June.
This is my daughter, Gina. Give her a kiss now.
Of course.
Miss Lou love lips.
How you doing?
You hear a change in his accent the closer he gets to this place? As he pointed out landmarks from his childhood, Belafonte found himself making connections of his own.
I never, ever, ever thought that I would leave this place, let alone leave this island, and then to be revisiting this with my kids and my grandchildren and whatnot. For me, it's a full circle.
The story will continue after this.
Since 1956, he was a close personal friend of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., serving as an advisor and fundraiser for him. And Belafonte used his celebrity to win public support for the movement. For example, Belafonte was the guest host on The Tonight Show and invited Dr. King to appear.
Every time Dr. King had been seen, it was at the height of battle. On The Tonight Show, he was seen as a man with humor, with wit. I thought it was strategically very important that he be seen that way.
Someone said that you and Dr. King got along so well because you were both people who had to, in a sense, walk a tightrope, trying to appeal to people from different audiences.
Yes, no question about it. Dr. King found very few people he could talk to who understood that tightrope.
What about the tightrope that Harry Belafonte has had to walk?
I would rather have had a life without it, but it has also been a walk that has afforded me experiences that I would never have had I not had to walk the tight line. And the tightrope has now become a way of life, to have come from abject poverty and to now be told that I am a national treasure. Wow, what a journey.